Hello, welcome to my channel for Evolved Humans. I am Ms. Day. This is a weirdly cool reading. It's like the word enigma just could describe it. I'm pretty sure. If that means like a mystery, right? I don't know. But anyway, okay. First thing I heard that song. I have not even heard this song. I saw it in a glimpse of Dance Moms once. And it was like, I'm in the industry. That's it. I don't remember anything else about it. But I was hearing that, and then I thought about Brian Tracy. And he's really good at speaking. But he's like a professional, and he was a really successful individual. That's why I know who he is. And so whoever you are, it's like the first kind of wave I got hit with was that you're an expert at whatever it is that you've learned to do with yourself. And I don't know what industry you work in, but this is very much about like your own skill being developed. And it's like you stick out in the crowd because it's a very, okay. So the weirdness with that, I heard it's like the need that you have message-wise. The word I heard was honor, but it was like there's a difference between honor and pride. Honor versus pride, different things. It's like honor is the thing that drives you. Pride is a place you sit. And there is also, like, I don't know, it's kind of neat because I feel like I'm talking to someone who's really skilled at something. And also, I feel like this is about a loner again. And that doesn't have to be physically all alone. You could be around people, but you're alone because you're a totally different mix-up of traits and abilities. And how odd. So I also I'm not the type of person who's like, oh, I bet you've got an animal. But I just still, everything is kind of like about being a lone wolf, being a loner. But the wolf part, not the animal bit, but just like kind of how we see that when we say like the lone wolf. You have to be a bit of a badass. And also strong. Like there's got to be strength. Yeah. So there's a reason for the loner feeling. The other bit of it is, I was like, what is this feeling at first? Because it was kind of contradicting itself, it seemed like. But I don't think it actually does. I feel like it's perfectly aligned. And there's something about how you can articulate wrong stuff, bad things, out your mouth. It feels like it's kind of like a fiery way that I don't think is common. And that's important. Maybe that's why I thought of Brian Tracy, because I think that that's something that I heard him say, which I've actually heard a lot of really well-spoken people say, which is basically, they're well-spoken people and they say, put the most important piece of information you have at the front. Like, that's something Brian Tracy said though. He said a lot of time is wasted and connections are lost due to beating around the bush. And I think that's a good quality to have. It may make you have to be alone, but it feels like your emotional self is so fully warm. And another thing I got in the beginning was the word practical. Like, I feel like not only are you skilled at what you do, but I feel like you're a very practical minded person where if you connect there are different types of this, like, kind of presenting itself. And one of the things I was seeing in my mind was someone who feels very quick to connect to, like, an animal, but not necessarily quick to deeply connect to a person. And that's not due to anything odd. That actually, it's like, that's what made me think of someone who's practical. Because your emotional presence is largely felt. So I think that when you're being felt by something that doesn't speak, then what is there? There's just your presence. So the other bit of it is, there is not a crop circle in the reading, but like, I was trying to figure out what the message was. And the outcome, like the projected result at this moment in time, it made me think of whatever it is that you do, I think you think that it's just one of many. Everybody does that, or anybody can do that. But I think that you're not seeing that you are unique. You are not a loner as an outcast. You are not the black sheep. You're a lone wolf. And it's like, there's a difference between those two things. And what do you think of when you think of, like, someone even said this the other day. I'm thinking of someone saying, I don't want to be the black sheep in my family. And it's an odd thing that we say. Because when I think about sheep, I'm thinking, and like a person thinking of themselves like a sheep, I'm thinking of sheeple, like someone who kind of like conforms to the crowd in order to fit in. And sometimes we call the person who doesn't fit in the black sheep. That makes them sound like they're the same, but they're just shunned away. And in this message, it's like, what you need to see it as is that you're walking on your own for a reason, and your presence is largely felt. And I think that's the other part. It's like there's another end of, it's almost like if your full perception of your future and your life and like yourself, if it were a full sentence, it's almost like you're only allowing yourself to experience the beginning and the middle, but you're like refusing, almost like with the mindset of a black sheep. The chip on the shoulder thing, where it's like you're not looking at the future almost like, well, I don't see that. But it's like, it's your sentence. If you don't complete the third bit and make it to the end of it, then it won't be completed. That's the weird thing, is I was like thinking of crop circles, and it made me, but crop circles have not always been, this is where like, it matters what is, okay, crop circles that are not made because of an alien spacecraft, the people that have like admitted to creating crop circles over the years, they admitted that it was a scam. It wasn't really an alien spacecraft. And then there's a crop circle before, like, people admitted to it and everybody was like just mesmerized. We were like, what's going on? And I wasn't there, but they were like saying, thinking, speculating as outsiders that this must be an alien spacecraft. And it's like, once you had the idea in your head that it could be faked, then you doubted it all. And it's like, but what's the real outcome? What does that mean? What was the most important part of that? It is that the whole point isn't what was produced by many. It wasn't that, well, humans can do it, so maybe aliens didn't. It was more so, it does matter where it came from. It matters who did it. That's what makes all the difference, is who did it. And this reading, like, if you don't know that you're a completely complex individual, that's what it feels like. It was like kind of a slap of whoa, 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 like just all sorts of different things forming one really perfect sentence of strength. It's like strength all the way to the end, not just over the hump. That's not why you go over the hump. It's so that it's gone, and then you can leave it behind you, and then you don't have to work so hard for the rest of the walk. And like, the other bit of this is like, it's almost tying in, wow, because I heard a song in my head in the beginning, and it was kind of funny because I was like, why am I feeling opposites? It's like I'm almost feeling hit with opposite things that repel each other. So like honor versus pride. And then this song came into my head that was, I think, from Beth Crawley. And I think the song is called Warrior. Because it's like that behind this soft exterior is a warrior, I think. And I heard that and I was like, but it's weird because I felt the opposite about whoever this is about. I almost got this vision of, I think this is a hard exterior, but a soft inside. I don't think this is, oh, I pretend to be soft, but inside I can fight. I think this is more like, I've always had to fight, and so I forgot that being soft is a strength too. Because this ties it in with that practical mindset of being really quick to observe and connect to nature. That could be squirrels, it could be birds, it could be literally like horses, dogs, it could be anybody's pet. If you're quick to appreciate its value, if you're quick to appreciate its presence, it's like that's a reflection of that presence is felt by you too. Like when you feel like you're connecting to them, they feel you too. There's just none of that human crap in the way. And this feels, it's like so bright underneath. It's the opposite of that song. And I feel like that's what this is kind of saying, is like, there's a reason you've got that deep connection and that giant warmth to the things that you find valuable in this world. It's like you are of value, and you can't underestimate that, because if you do, no one will know it. This is another thing that I was thinking about, is I had these flashbacks of multiple times that I kind of wished that someone, like an adult that maybe I wasn't able to communicate well with or something, like I wished that they had had someone in their life see them when they were lost themselves. Like when they couldn't see themselves and they didn't see their worth. I wish someone had been there to see it along the way and voice it out loud, because then they would recognize their worth now easier, instead of always trying to help them see it, you know? And that's kind of what this feels like, where it's like, you have always had it. Like you've always actually been more of a larger vibration and like more of a presence and more strength than I think that maybe it comes from underneath. Maybe everyone doesn't see it, but I feel like it comes from underneath, because that's what lights you up. That's you. That is what drives your strength. It's like that honor. That's more like honor than just sitting on a throne. Because that industry song, when I was like feeling like someone is a real expert at something that they do, you may not even know that this is a craft. Whatever it is that you do, you may not have even like fit it into your own life yet as a skill that you can give away to others. But in the beginning, I got kind of a look at that, where it's like, not only are you a very driven person underneath, you've also like driven well along the way. There's something about, okay, so it feels weird to say this, but it's like you've gotten good at dealing with negativity. And and that's not something to wear like pride. You don't wear it. You can use it when necessary, but you don't want to draw it in, but you also don't want to wear it. You don't want to. This is interesting because it's making me think of that. What I was flashing back to with that song, it was kids doing a dance, and they were like dressed like just like little hip hop / pop star looking weird. I don't know. It was supposed to look kind of tough. It didn't. It just looked like what I just said. But it like, you don't have to be tough to be good at your craft. You don't have to be defensive to be honing in on your skill and being strength about it. Like, some people are intimidated by strength, and that's not something that you can fight. But the other part that was at the beginning was like someone being able to articulate, and it's like having a sharp tongue, which I just feel like that just makes me think of being cutthroat, where you can like say something and it just slices through something. And I think that doesn't need to be a negative piece of information. It's just that this whole lesson that you're learning about yourself, it's like you can use that as a skill. This whole like lesson of you don't have to deal with negative just because you've gotten good at it and you're pretty quick to like heal up and, you know, pass things off because you don't take them personally when it's someone else. It seems like you can actually not just take that as a huge life lesson in your journey, but also flip it and use it right back at your life. Like, use that life lesson right back at your own life now. Because if you're actively using it, then it can never topple you back over again. But there's also, you can make it quicker and to the point for other people to handle negative information or information that isn't just or isn't true. And that's another, like, it almost makes me think of like a really serious craft. I don't know. And that's, you know, personal stuff is serious. Like, it doesn't have to be big news to be a serious service to the world that we live in, because it starts very tiny. Like, every single bit of a group experience starts with one little spark of an idea starting that group even. But use that as a skill, even for yourself. That's how you like apply it. When you get good at using the negative, you don't want to use it to continue to manipulate through situations to keep your footing. Instead, you want to be like, okay, now I have my footing. Now I'm going to walk over that stuff by just cutting it out, cutting through it immediately as soon as it enters my space. Because sometimes we need to be more. This makes me feel like someone is uncomfortable speaking negative information. And it may not be because you're rationally uncomfortable with it. It may be that giant inside of you that almost feels like, I don't want to put negativity onto other people. But there's a difference between experiencing and acknowledging negative information and dumping it on someone else. Like, if you deal with your own reactions, then just exposing the truth is not a burden that you're placing on someone else. That's not your fault just for true information to exist. If you know, the word validation is kind of a big deal today. Like, I feel like validating yourself and your experiences, that, yeah, because now I'm even remembering somewhat. The fact of the matter is, like, your first relationship in your entire life, it's with you. It's between you and your ability to experience life in a human. Like, that's all, that's your first immediate environment, is how you live in here, about it. And this kind of feels like, remember that not being combative to someone else's like lack of acknowledgement about what you've been through or something, that doesn't mean that you don't need to still voice what you've been through sometimes, if not only for yourself. Like, you can write it, you can type it, you can just say it out loud even if nobody's in the room with you. But this seems like someone who needs to apply to their entire existence their ability to articulate short and to the point, and to overcome negative true information with strength, with dignity, and with warmth underneath, not getting tarnished. Somehow, like, the brightest part of this reading is the underneath. That's what it is. It's like your emotional side is not what is projected. And that's another bit. If, like, when you think about someone who's not connected well or communicating well in any interaction, like in personal or at work, like societal, if they're not communicating well, this feels like you've already learned the life lesson, or maybe this is just a part of it for you to, like, just finish the thing, complete this lesson that you just need to emotionally process it. It's like you need to emotionally accept it to put it the whole way through and then come out of that old skin fully. But it's like that is a projection of their own emotional stuff. Like, just because they're not navigated throughout their own negative, it doesn't mean that you are burdensome for putting true negative information into the environment, like, to be acknowledged by all who are responsible for it. This is weird, but it feels very specific. Like, it feels very specific. Because if they're experiencing their own things, that's going to get in the way no matter what. For them to see, that's in their way of their view. Your view can still be clear, and you're not responsible for clearing up theirs. You can still be straight and to the point. Like, you have to continue growing, even if other people around you are not. And I think that you've already done that your whole life. This is so weird. It's like literally you just have to complete the process by accepting fully what you've become. You know, you can't accept yourself fully if you don't see yourself truly. Like, if you don't look at yourself with honest eyes, sometimes what you have to recognize is this isn't about pumping yourself up. Sometimes acknowledging what you've become and what you've kept alive and awake underneath along the way, and what you haven't done to other people, but you have endured yourself, when you acknowledge that, you are acknowledging reality as it is now. That's not some spa day experience. Like, that's a for real necessity if you're going to keep going. Like, you can be humble, but be real. Look at yourself. Just because this is coming into my mind, so I'm going to say it. A lot of people have said this, and I've thought it myself, but when you're doing any type of like self-connection stuff or something, You can literally look in the mirror and just look into your pupils and just ask yourself those deep questions that you feel. Like, who am I? And just give yourself that moment and just think for a second and pretend in that moment that you can look at yourself as an outsider, speculating, looking in, just as an onlooker. Like, what's that one done? What's that one been through? And look at them now. Because there's a difference between honor and pride. This is basically saying honor your presence. Honor what is. The same way that nature honors you, you do that. You honor you. Just like you can look at a squirrel and be mesmerized at its, how cute it is or how resourceful it is. Like whatever it is, that this is someone who can see and appreciate the natural world. And I don't mean that in a silly way. I don't mean that in the sparkly fairy tale way. I mean you see worth and you value it where it is. And it's like that's what you need to do with yourself. Isn't that really accepting your worth? Is really acknowledging it? Like you cannot dismiss an issue or an addiction to a substance if you're unwilling to recognize that you're picking it up and drinking the substance. Like the bridge is you. And it's like you've got to accept you. It's not just about growth. You're a part of that journey. You're never left behind in nature. Never ever. Like you're always going to be important. Even when you think you've overcome all this for what? Because look at you. Because of you and the presence that you have become. And if someone's doubting that you're skilled at whatever it is that you do, like maybe you think you're not, something that I heard once was that like it takes, I think it might have been Brian Tracy that said it. And I think it was a couple of years ago that I heard this, but that like it takes, I think 6 to 8 years to become an expert at what you're well practiced at doing at work or a skill. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know if this resonates, definitely. Let me know in the comments. If you're interested in a personal reading, I have started adding the MP3 recording again. Like, I'm never going to share it with anyone but you, and I don't want it shared either, other than, like, in your own private space. But if you want a personal reading, you can send me an email. That is going to be in the description below, and that's over Zoom. So I am doing that. I think I'm going to switch the times that I'm doing it, though, like throughout each week. And if you live in a different country, that's fine. You can email me and we can still find a time to do it. Anyway, subscribe if you feel like any of these readings resonate. And if you feel like this one applies to you, let me know in the comments. All right, bye.